right, and hello, welcome to Midweek Online. To those of you who are live, hey, how's it going? To those of you who might be watching this later, hello, I'm so glad that you are here with us today. Whether you are live or watching later, welcome. It's Midweek Online. If you do not know who I am, my name is Jess. I am the student minister over junior high at Hope Christian Church. We're in for some absolute fun. But first, I have a couple things today. First being, of course, Band App. That is where I will post any announcement, information, event, sometimes a funny meme or two. If you are not connected with us, I don't know what you're doing. The link is in the description below to be a part of that. You might want to just sign up because we announce things like camp. We are going to camp. Oh my gosh. We have an opportunity to go to High Hill Christian Camp in High Hill, Missouri, and I am so stinking excited about this. We are going to be going from July 27th through July 30th. It is going to be an absolute blast. It is $175 per student, and you do not want to miss out. So if you have any questions or comments about that, or if you just want the registration link to sign up, or if you're wondering like, hey Jess, how are we going to do this with all this COVID nonsense, any kind of comment, question, concern, conundrum, please feel free to email me right here. Go ahead and shoot me an email with any of your questions, any interest. If you want the registration link, send me an email and we can handle that together. It's going to be great. I am so excited to go, and you do not want to miss out. It's going to be an absolute blast. All right. Last week we played Synonym Song Battle. This week I found a game that when I saw the name of it, I died laughing. It's really funny to me. And so we are going to be playing a game called Peter, Peta, or Peta. Oh, so good. It is a bunch of questions about your favorite apostle, your favorite tribute, your favorite bread, and your favorite crazy activist group. So we're going to be reading questions, and you have to decide which Peta fits that situation best, or is true about that Peta. All right, so for instance, we have question number 1. Which PETA has the largest amount of fans on his or its Facebook page? Yes, people have made Facebook pages for something like Pita Bread or the Apostle Peter, neither of which have access to Facebook. One because it's an inanimate object, the other because he's been dead for a while. But they still have Facebook pages. So, which one has the most amount of fans? Go ahead and take your guess. The answer is, it's PETA. They have 2.7 million plus. That's a lot of people. All right, next up, we have which is not an active Twitter handle. Again, who is running these Twitter pages? That's hilarious. I want to read the thoughts from PETA Bread. That's all I want to know. But, which one is not active on Twitter? So, go ahead and make your guesses, because the answer is, it's Peta Balark. They got us with the word active. The handle exists, but there has never been a posted tweet. All right. Next up, we have, a quote. Who or what said this? We are at war, and we'll do what we need to win. Who said that? Could have been the bread. It could have. So go ahead and make your guesses. The answer is PETA by Dan Matthews, their director of media relations. Good quote, Dan. All right, next we have, when I looked in the sheet, I saw wild animals, snakes, and birds. Again, it could have been the bread. But who said this? Who or what said this quote right here? Go ahead and make your guesses. Go ahead and, just think about who could have said this. The answer is the pita bread. Psych, it wasn't. It was Peter. Found in Acts chapter 11. Kind of a fun scene, so you might want to look into that. Read that at a different time, because we have this next question coming up. Another quote, "Don't die for me, you won't be doing me any favors." Who or what said this? Go ahead and take some guesses. Maybe you know this for sure. The answer is, it was Peter Millark in the Hunger Games movie. All right, next we have, fill in with what makes the most sense. All right, so we have a fill in the blank situation. Which PETA fits in which blank? Blank would make the best blank. I mean, I kind of have an idea of what the second one probably is, if that's like helpful to you guys. But let's go ahead and figure out. Blank would make the best blank. PETA would make the best pita. I guess that makes sense. He is the son of a baker, so he's probably good at making pita bread. Heyo. All right, next we have, oh man, 3 blanks. Blank would not object to blank having blank. Oh, all right, well, this could go a number of different ways. And if you didn't guess what the answer is and you think yours is better, go ahead and throw that in the comments so that we can all see it and maybe enjoy your brain and what you thought of. But the answer here is PETA would not either works having PETA. All right. I mean, because I guess pita bread isn't an animal, and PETA, the organization, would be okay with that. But again, if you thought of something, different or what you think is better, go ahead and toss it in the comments. We can laugh at that. All right. Next up, we have blank would not be okay with blank's job. Uh-oh. This could go a bunch of different ways. You ever just felt like pita bread is just disappointed in your job? But let's figure out if that's one of the answers. The blanks filled are, PETA would not be okay with Peter's job. Ah, he was a fisherman. That makes sense. That makes total sense. All right. Oh. Ooh, Peter literally means what? I feel like some of you probably know this off the top of your head. This is, a name that Jesus gave to him with a specific meaning. That meaning is rock. Peter means rock. All right, next up we have, PETA literally means, this could be good. I mean, it could also mean rock, but, maybe not. Go ahead and make your guesses. Pita bread. PETA literally means solid. That's awesome. That's fair. It's a pretty solid piece of bread. All right, next up we have rock solid. If you guess both of those right, you are rock solid. That's a good joke. Maybe I just thought it was a good joke. All right, moving on. Ooh, a tiebreaker. I don't know if we needed a tiebreaker, but we have one just in case. And that is tortured on accusation of inciting a rebellion. Whoa, that could have been. You gotta just take a guess here. Which one? Which PETA was tortured on an accusation of inciting rebellion? The answer is both of those. Both Peter and PETA. You could have guessed either one. Maybe you guessed both. All right. And that is our game of Peter, PETA, PETA, or PETA. It's still a great name. I still really enjoy that. Hopefully you did too, because we're going to go ahead and move on to our new series, What to Do When You Don't Know What to Do. We're going to dive right in. Before we do that, we got to pray. So close your eyeballs, hands off your neighbors, hands off your keyboard, hands off your mouse, hands off your screen. We're talking to Jesus. All right. Hey, Jesus, thank you so much for this day that you've given us, Lord. Thank you for the beautiful weather outside. Thank you for the breath in our lungs. Thank you for waking us up this morning, Lord. We thank you so much for giving us your word that we get to learn about you and learn from you on a daily basis, Lord. That you would want us to know you is just fabulous. Lord, we love you so much. And as we talk tonight about what to do when we don't know what to do, Lord, we just ask for your wisdom in all things because your wisdom is perfect. We ask that you would open our ears and open our hearts to hear what you have for us. And we pray these things in your name. Amen. All right, we are starting this new series, What to Do When You Don't Know What to Do. It is a mouthful, I understand. And through the series, we're going to spend this week and the next 4 weeks, so like 5 weeks total, talking about Joseph, the life of Joseph in Genesis, and how his life perfectly demonstrates for us how we can know what to do when we don't know what to do. It's going to continue being a mouthful, I understand. But before we get into that, I have a story. Of course I have a story. You guys might not know this about me, but I am obsessed with Disney. I mean, you're probably thinking, Jess, who doesn't like a good solid Disney movie? Crazy people, that's who. But when I say I'm obsessed, I mean I am obsessed. I have kept track over the years of all of the Disney movies that I have ever seen. And I've seen pretty much all of them, except for give or take a couple classics, maybe a couple older ones that I just haven't got my hands on. I love singing karaoke to any and all Disney songs. I love them so much. And I've been to Disney World in Florida probably about maybe a little more than 10 times and could tell you every inch of 3 of the 4 main parks plus Disney Springs. When I tell you every inch, like to this day, if you want to know where the Cupcake ATM is at Disney Springs, I can tell you right now, no map, how to get there. That's how obsessed I am. And normally I keep that obsession to myself. Like most people know that I'm a fan of Disney, because who doesn't love Disney? But not everybody knows the level of my obsession. And there's actually a name for those kind of people who are obsessed with Disney, and they are actually called Disney people, not Disney fans, Disney lovers, Disney fanatics. They are Disney people, and they exist. They're bonkers. To the point where there's an actual dating site for just Disney people. I'm not on it. Don't worry. But it exists. Crazy. Because Disney people are serious obsessed fans. That would be me. I don't always share that with most people know that I do love Disney, and I love their movies, and I love their parks, but not everybody knows the depths of my obsession, and I like to keep it that way. Just because I don't want people thinking that I'm more of a weirdo than they actually already do. And that's something that when I get home, I tend to, kind of keep to myself and celebrate here in the comforts of my own home, where I can come home and sing Disney songs at the top of my lungs and no one judges me. Or watch movie upon movie upon movie on Disney, or binge all of the shows if I want to with my Pooh Bear stuffed animal that I have had since I was a wee child. To the point where sometimes it can feel with my different obsessions, like my Disney obsession, that I live in 2 different worlds, because I have here in the comfort of my own home when I can be myself in my Disney obsession, and then out in the real world where I actually have to act like an adult human being. And maybe you guys understand what I'm talking about, where you feel like you're living 2 different worlds, one inside your home and one's outside of your home, if you feel me. And It's true. It is true. There's a life that you live outside of your home with your friends, your teachers, your teammates, your bandmates, maybe even your friends at church, and then your family. It can be two different worlds, and it feels different in those two different lives. And although we might not admit it all the time, we are way weirder at home. I can admit it. I'm way weirder at home than we are in public. We act different. We maybe have different behaviors, different attitudes when we're out with our friends or we're out in public than we are at home. And not only can we be weirder at home, but there are even times, if we dare admit it, that we are maybe more difficult at home than we are out in public. You feel me? I mean, think about it for a second. If you go to a friend's house, you're not going to leave your dirty laundry on the stairs. You're just not. That's gross. You would never, ever talk to your coach maybe the way you talk to your mom sometimes. You would never be as mean to a teammate than maybe you are on your siblings. And you might not go off as easily on those out in public than you would on your own family. So why do we do this? Why do we act two completely different ways depending on where we are? It's kind of crazy. And there might be a lot of reasons for why we do this, but personally for me, my reason is I think of my home as my world. And anybody in my home is just living in it. This is my world. And everyone's just kind of living in it. Maybe that's how we think about our lives at home. That it's your world, your safe place, your home, and everybody else is just living in it. I mean, maybe we don't say it out loud. We would never actually say it that way. But we walk in the door and we ask what's for dinner and get mad if it's not something that we like. Or we complain about having to go to a siblings band concert because we had different plans. In our world, we want it our way. That's not nearly as true anywhere else. Most of us wouldn't go to a friend's house, get invited for dinner, and then say, "Ugh, you made broccoli, why would you do that?" We would never tell our coach, like, "Hey coach, can't come to a game this weekend, I already had other plans." Or, you shouldn't do that. Even if it's hard to admit, some of us feel like the only place we can feel safe or to be the realest version of ourselves is at home. The people we live with will hopefully still love us when we're being ridiculous, but at the same time, we all tend to be the realest, but also sometimes the worst versions of ourselves at home. No matter what's happening, I ask myself the question, how does this affect me? How does home, how does all of that affect me as a person? I mean, if we think about it, everything that we say or do at home is in response to how we answer that question, how does this affect me? What I don't think a lot of us realize is that as we think about our lives at home is how English is hard. What we don't realize as we think about our lives at home in our own home environment is how much our response to this question changes the vibe in our house. As we respond to how things are affecting us, whatever is going on at home, we respond to how it affects us. And the people in our house are responding to how we then are affecting them. And then we respond to that, and it just keeps going. And most of us don't realize that we're actually playing a key role in the general feeling of the house, in the vibe. Is this always true? No, it's really not always true. But for some of us, we at least know that we are part of the problem of the cycle of tension and attitude that we live in. The question is, what do you do about it? What are you supposed to do about that? What do you do when things are tough at home? When the mood is off or bad, when you know you are part of the reason, but you have no idea what to do about it. Families can be hard. Everybody would agree with that. I think everyone you've ever met would agree that families, being in a family, living with a family, having family can sometimes be hard, and it just is. But the good news is that you're really not alone in that. You are not the only one with a family that can drive you crazy, or with a family that maybe is a little chaotic. In fact, we can read about dysfunctional families throughout our Bible everywhere. And over the next few weeks, we're going to be diving headfirst into what I think would be the most dysfunctional family in the Old Testament. He is someone who, like us, found himself in all kinds of situations where he didn't know what to do, especially when it came to his family. So we're going to be talking about Joseph. His story is pretty wild. It's like the most dramatic Netflix show ever. It's got murder. It's got arrests. It's got him being put into slavery and him being accused of something he didn't do, thrown into jail. All of these twists and turns, and it never seems to stop. But everything that happens in Joseph's life is because of his family drama. Let's talk about his family real quick. Let's lay down who Joseph's family is and why it just sounds chaotic when you first hear about it. Joseph is one of the youngest kids in this whole family. He has a dad named Jacob. Jacob is son of Isaac, one of God's chosen people to further on the Israelite clan. He gets renamed Israel, but Jacob has 2 wives, 2 of them, which was okay. It was acceptable back then. Another thing that was acceptable at this time was, in order to grow your family as big and as quick as possible, each wife had a maidservant. And that female maidservant could also be someone who could have kids for the husband in order to grow the family. So technically, we have 1 Jacob, 1 husband, and 4 moms. 4 moms under one roof. This is already bonkers. And out of those 4 moms, we get 12 kids. So we have 1 mom, or 1 husband, 1 dad, 4 moms, 12 kids. Now, Jacob, our dad, had a favorite wife. Her name was Rachel. Rachel really struggled to have kids. It was very hard for her. So when she gave birth to Joseph, he was like the miracle baby, you know? And Joseph was one of the last kids to be born even. And Jacob was so excited that he ended up treating Joseph as a favorite kid. He even gave Joseph a coat of many colors, which would have been rare and expensive back then, showing his favoritism for this miracle baby. So we have this tension. We have 1 dad, 4 moms, 12 kids, and a favorite. And there's a lot of tension here. So we're going to pick it up in Genesis 37, starting in verse 5. It says, "One night Joseph had a dream, and when he told his brothers about it, they hated him more than ever. 'Listen to this dream,' he said. 'We were out in a field tying up bundles of grain. Suddenly my bundles stood up, and your bundles all gathered around and bowed low before mine.'" Anybody can tell what this dream was really about. It was about Joseph apparently having power over his entire family. And as much as Joseph is the center of our story and we want to see him as the good guy, we can pretty much guess his motive for deciding to share the story with his dysfunctional family. I mean, let's think about this for a second. For those of us who are siblings, we have siblings, you can tell me right now. I have 2 brothers. You can tell me right now, because I also know this. We know exactly what to say to push our siblings' buttons. It's a gift. All siblings know each other's buttons to press and what to say to make who upset and where and why and how. It's just something we do. And so here in this moment, as we want Joseph to be our hero and the good guy in our story, there's already dysfunction in his family. He's a teenage boy. He knows this. He's been alive for a while. And he understands the chaos in his family, all of the tension. And so he tells this dream to his brothers, who already hate him for being the favorite, about him being the center of attention. He's pushing buttons here. He knows exactly what's going to get his siblings all riled up, and so he does. The passage goes on. In verse 8, it says, his brothers responded, "So you think you will be our king, do you? Do you actually think you will reign over us?" And they hated him all the more because of his dreams and the way he talked about them. That's a harsh vibe. There's a lot going on. His brothers were over him being the favorite. They're over it. I understand. And then Joseph has this dream about him being the center of attention. Can you imagine the level of drama and tension in this family? You could cut it with a knife. 1 dad, 4 moms, 12 kids, and now the favorite kid who is going on and on about this dream, these dreams he's been having of everyone bowing to him. Why would he do that? I mean, other than stirring up the pot with his siblings, like, why would he tell these dreams? But Joseph wasn't acting in a way that considered his family's situation. He wasn't thinking about that. He was behaving like we all tend to when it comes to our families. He was hyper aware of how he was being treated rather than being aware of how he affected others. Even though these few verses are about Joseph's dream and how he is showing how he has no awareness at all of how he's affecting his family, it's more about showing just the tension in the family that was never dealt with and continued to grow. And this story is still being read and is still very important today. Why? 3 reasons. 1, to show us that family has always been complicated. 2, to teach us to pay attention to how our actions and even our situations affect the people we live with. And 3, to remind us that tension left unsolved will never go away. It just continues to grow into something bigger and bigger, and that's something we'll dive into next week. But until then, what could have everyone in the family done to make the situation different? Joseph could have started to see himself as part of the problem, as one person in a large family rather than the center of it. Dad, Jacob, could have realized that his favoritism was impacting everyone in the family. The brothers could have chilled out a little bit and maybe dropped the grudges and the gossip going on. And everybody could have ignored Joseph's dreams and not allowed their insecurity to control them. The point is this: Joseph's family drama isn't really all that different from our own. That's what makes the Bible so cool, is we always see it as this book that just tells stories that I can't relate to that. That was so far back in the past. But when we look closer at the story of Joseph, we can relate because there's a lot of family drama and craziness happening. And we've got some of that in our own lives too. I mean, whether you're the favorite one or the angry one, maybe you're the firstborn or the lastborn, or maybe you're the quiet one, or maybe you're the one with a gold medal in door slamming, which I don't recommend. Truth is the same. There is a role that you play in your family. Pay attention to how your words and your behaviors and your action and your attitudes contribute to the tone and temperature of your house. Are you improving it? Or are you creating more tension along the way? Then decide what you want your role to be in your family here on out. In other words, pay attention to how you're affecting your family. And if you aren't sure what to do with the effect that you have in your family, maybe start with this passage in Philippians chapter 2 in verses 3 through 8. It says, "Don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourself. Don't look out for only your own interests, but take an interest in others too. You must have the same attitude that Christ Jesus had. Though he was God, he did not think of equality with God as something to cling to. Instead, he gave up his divine privileges. He took the humble position of a slave and was born as a human being. When he appeared in human form, he humbled himself in obedience to God and died a criminal's death on the cross." There's so much we could dive into. It could take hours. We're not going to. Don't worry. But in this passage, we ultimately see, as we know from time and time again, that Jesus is our ultimate and perfect example for everything in life. And here in this situation, he is the perfect example of not only how we can have an effect on others, but also the perfect way to have that effect on others by being selfless. So here is the final $1 million question. How do we do that when we don't know what to do at our house? Maybe we don't know how to change that. By taking on the attitude of Jesus, make all the difference in the world. We can decide that we're not the most important person in our family. I know, it's a crazy thought. Those in our family, we are just as important as them, that we are equals, and maybe, just maybe, that they are more important than ourselves. As we are a family unit, that we are not the center of that world in our home and everyone else is just living in it, but that we play one role in an entire team of family, of people who live in our house. And I'll bet that if you decide to take that humble attitude that Jesus had while he was here on earth, you'll begin to see the way that you have an effect on your family change for the even better. So we will continue to talk about this over the next 4 weeks. We'll get to dive into Joseph's life as we go forward to learn, what exactly do we do when we don't know what to do. So I hope that you guys have a grand rest of your night, and I will see you next week right here at 6:30. I love you guys so much. I miss you like crazy, and I am praying for you, and I hope you guys have a wonderful night.